Good evening, randomizer fans, and welcome to another installment of the Adamant Cup in our Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Adamant Cup tournament. We have ourselves a Cat Claw matchup. First Cat Claw matchup of the tournament so far. JudgeJoe versus Poidrac. My name's Vitasia. I'm joined tonight by Rybon. How are we doing tonight, Rybon?
I am excited for this match. It's a very juxtaposed match between Poidrac, a very well-experienced and well-known runner here within the Free Enterprise community, and JudgeJoe, a pink puff from last season and someone relatively newer to the community. Very interesting to see how the newcomer matches up against the old-timer.
I'm going to make sure to clip that little part where you call Poidrac the old timer and spam his chat with it every chance I get.
I'm sure he'll forgive me. I hope he'll forgive me.
No, this you're right. It is absolutely there's several of us who have been in the Free Enterprise community for quite a while. Poidrac's name has absolutely been at the very top of the runners list for a long time. I believe we were looking at the predictions, and Poidrac, while not the clear-cut favorite to come out of this group, because it is a reasonably stacked group, he has the most votes, I think. JudgeJoe also relatively has the fewest, but he's playing with house money at this point. And coming from the Pink Puff League, we've seen a lot of really talented runners come out of that. So this is not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination for Poidrac here.
No, absolutely not. If I remember correctly, Poidrac came away with about half of the bracketology votes for the Cat Claw group. I think 32 total. JudgeJoe with about 2, unfortunately. Quite a bit lower, but I think it's just because JudgeJoe is not such a known quantity in the community. You're right, the Pink Puff League has produced a lot of fantastic runners. NG Dave, this season's batch of Pink Puff, also a significantly talented group of individuals. I think we saw Funnel Cakes, for example, a Pink Puff, do a fantastic job yesterday in his race. And I'm expecting a lot from Joe this particular tournament as well. It's great to see new faces, new runners come out and represent not just the Puffs, but just show what the new blood can do against some of the people who have been around for quite a while. So high hopes for Joe in this particular race.
As we look to get started here, what's your thoughts on these objectives? We do have to complete all 7, and we got some nasty ones. Complete the Giant, forge the Legend Sword, and complete Cave Magnus. Lots of time-consuming cutscene sorts of objectives at this point in time.
Yeah, and we almost have what I like to call the regicide seed, where we have to kill Baron Castle Basement Throw, which is Odin. We have to kill the king, a town of monsters. We have to kill the pretty much the king of the summons, which is that cave Bahamut. We're just missing the queen at the town of monsters. But we have a ladies' night here in Baron with both Rosa and Rydia as our starters. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here with a Twin Harp starting as well that will take care of complete Cave Magnes. We'll be getting music sooner rather than later, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, let's not dismiss in that kit that we got, we also got the Sylph summon right away. Of course, the Sylph glitch is turned on, so as long as Rydia is not in that middle slot, it does not cost MP for her to cast Sylph for some strange reason or another, so we just go with it. It is a minor glitch that is activated for this particular tournament. She has to have the MP first, of course, so at level 1 like she is now won't do us a whole lot of good, but that does make getting Rydia early on at least a little bit more palatable.
Indeed. And Rydia does have the advantage later on too. Maybe if you don't want to use that Sylph summon, maybe we find a hook relatively early on and we're worried about a hook route. Rydia makes the absolute perfect anchor, starting with only 4 agility.
Oh, well, maybe we'll let Rydia hit things, because Poidrac did just find a Dragon Whip. That's a pretty decent weapon, all things said, for Rydia right out of the gate, and we're kind of lacking in damage, so that might be our best option for early game damage right at the moment.
It could be. I believe Poidrac also found a samurai bow in the Watery Pass, whereas Judge Joe just found an elven bow over in the public treasury in Troya. So both of our starters, both of our runners here having a pair of divergent but pretty decent early game offensive options.
Judge Joe did end up finding a samurai bow that was located in the bedward spot. So no key item there, but we at least got a samurai bow there as well. So double samurai bows for whoever wants them across the board. I think we're a little arrow poor right now, but we at least have some archery to start us off.
Oh, and speaking of arrow poor, there is a stack of charm arrows at least for Poidrac. So that Rosa is online. Meanwhile, we're seeing some looting that I think we don't normally see on this particular flag set. Seeing dam, seeing basement, seeing watery pass. Hopefully, Poidrac has an exit to use in this particular situation because you don't want to walk out of here. Oh, the walking out.
Maybe and he looks like he's going to be walking out. This is an interesting play because we don't necessarily see this too often. He's gotten some decent gear, but we've seen kind of the meta shift in the community from going to, checking early Watery Pass to checking perhaps early Eblin Castle, where you can get some higher quality loot, but you have to kind of dodge around some trap chests. So this is an interesting play by Poidrac. One of the things about these sort of one-on-one randomizer races is that it's not just about what you do as a racer, it's about what your opponent doesn't do. So if you go out of your way to a place like this and find a really high-quality piece of loot that you can count on your opponent not coming here to check, it can really lean into that and give you an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the most part, the looting parity is relatively even between our two runners so far. Both of them have enough to throw on Rosa to get... actually, no, I was mistaken. Poidrac did not find that samurai bow. So it looks like Judge Joe actually has the looting advantage despite having not actually done that entirety of the Watery Pass. Found enough in Damsian Basement, found enough in Public Treasury in Troya to have actually a little bit of a looting advantage, which is not what I expected.
In the meantime, we do see a Palom located up on Mount Hobbs that looked like another twin that was taking a nap here in Kaipo as well. So still checking some of the overworld locations, seeing what's going on. Item shop check. We do see life potions that are in Kaipo. Those can be a little bit hidden. Sometimes you're given kind of a half stack to start the race, but always nice to pick up another stack of 10 or so.
And another note, we really high rolled on our starting equipment for both Rydia and Palom here. With C Nekion, you don't get what you normally start with these characters, which would be like a rod and maybe a cloth shirt. You get a random weapon, and that's about it. And both of them roll Dancing Dagger, giving them both pretty much the best amount of offense you could have early game.
No, absolutely. And with those levels, Palom is going to immediately really be online. He gets his level 2 spells as soon as he starts gaining levels, and that's really all you need in this first part of the game is level 2 spells and like one piece of equipment. Even the Dancing Dagger I think has enough wisdom. I think it's in this game wisdom and willpower, which confuses me, and I'm used to intellect being the black magic caster stats, so don't at me, chat.
Now, it'll be interesting to see if Judge Joe remembers that he had... Oh, yep, there he goes. Learn that Sylph. Rydia was able to gain enough levels up there on Hobbs to be able to cast that Sylph. So Rydia is also online right here. We have a lot of offense options for this starting party, which is great. One disadvantage, however, is that even though casting Sylph with the Sylph glitch on doesn't reduce MP, you still need enough MP on that Rydia to cast it to begin with, which I believe is 25. Judge Joe did not restore MP in this situation, so unfortunately, being able to cast Sylph is not in the bag at the moment.
And this is kind of a really rough spot for Asura to be. It doesn't heal for a whole lot right now. You kind of have to manipulate things a little bit so that Asura is just stuck in a loop of casting life over and over, because she'll be able to cure for herself like she just did on Joe Judge's side. You might be able to trick burn her down, but it's tricky right now. unless you're Rosa and use charm arrows and can one shot. So
Yeah,
you know,
having that combination of Mute Arrow and Elven Bow, I mean, the effect of the stack, but they both attack that mage weakness. And Asura, one of our few mage bosses out there, rewarded with a tower key here, which is not an objective, but could lead to an objective in the future. And of course, we'll be taking it out of here because we want to get those 10 key items if we're going to keep these mages around.
and really, when you're at, when you have to clear 7 different objectives at any point in time, it really behooves you to be able to make as many efficient checks at the same time as you possibly can. Knowing that the tower key is right there, you're like, well, I guess we're going to be doing the tower as soon as we get to the underground, just because it ends up being the most efficient check while you're down there. You can check your freebies and do that, but tower becomes immediately attractive as soon as you go down there. Whenever that may be, we're still looking for our way into the underground.
Fortunately, Poidrac seems to be having a little bit of trouble with his Asura here. Attempting to lifelock doesn't have the same level of offense that Joe does. So it is a rough go right now for Poidrac. Almost had Asura down. Unfortunately, dropped the lifelock to raise Rydia, which led to a Cure 4 coming out. So we're seeing right here a significant difference between the amount of power you get early game. JudgeJoe got quite a bit more offensive options than Poidrac did, and also did Hobbs early, giving him that additional character to help buffer. So, unfortunately for Poidrac, he's going to have to slog through this fight a little longer.
I think comes down to the Elven Bow. That, correct me if I'm wrong, and help me out, trackers, if you can. I believe he bought an Elven Bow in the Kaipo weapon shop, because I know he was shopping around, or is it the Samurai Bow that he was using that's throwing 1,000 damage out at level 10? Rosa, Samurai Bow from Edward. Okay.
There was a Samurai Bow from Edward, and there was an Elven Bow from the Public Treasury with Mute Arrows as well from the Damsian Treasury. So he's got options. But speaking of options, hey, that's an Earth Crystal. Very early on, too.
There's the biggest variable that I've found in practicing and trying to get better, for me personally, I don't know about you, Rybon, but when I do my practices right now, I find my biggest variable is trying to cut down and make the most efficient treasure checks as I can. Part of me just likes the sound of the treasure chest opening up, and I always think, could a crystal sword be there? So I tend to overloot. That Earth Crystal this early just screams to me, go. Just do it. I don't care. Just do it. I'm full on Shia LaBeouf, just screaming, just do it.
Yep. Don't let your crystal sword dreams be dreams. Just go loot the treasury. But JudgeJoe is ignoring Shia LaBeouf right now, heading down to the Baron Inn to pick up this Edward, which is the character you generally don't want. We don't have a spoon in hand at the moment. Might be able to get through this fight. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I would have expected Joe to beeline that treasury, maybe find, say, a Stardust Rod or 2 to equip to Xeon Mickey here in his party.
Well, I can understand the rationale wanting to come here. First of all, if you roll the dice and you're thinking, okay, do I get a Cecil? Do I get an Edge? Do I get a Fu? Do I get something nice for my character here? Then I can just roll right into not only doing the Earth Crystal, but also doing the full tower as well, for someone that, if you just need a couple pieces of gear, would be fantastic. Edward is not that character, so that gamble in particular did not necessarily pay off, but I can understand the rationale for wanting to check the Baron in first.
Yep, and maybe Joe just feels really confident in his offense. He should be. I mean, he does have a fair amount of offense for this early part of the game. Normally, the second part of Baron Inn can be a bit of a challenge, but not so much here with the Kaipo guards. He is through, that Edward is available to him, and that is a rat tail that we can't turn in. But is an objective. We'll need to do this eventually.
Yeah, but okay, like right now, Edward, to me, and I'm not saying, like, I know there's some Edward stands that are out there in our community, and I appreciate everyone. It takes all stripes. But to me, Edward is about as effective as the teddy bear in Earthbound. He's there to take a hit, and that's it.
Until you find that spoon, at least. And maybe taking a hit is just what we need from Edward right now. If we find that hook, for example, we have a required hook route, you're going to want an anchor, and Edward can actually fill that role if you don't let him gain any levels, at least.
Yeah. I mean, that's technically true. And technically true is really the best kind of true.
However, we'll probably actually find a better anchor with at least if a hook route is required. We have a character check down at the hook route at least, and we have 2 still waiting up on Zot. So this party is probably going to look a bit different in 20 minutes on both of our runner sides.
All right, and
NG Dave pointed out an interesting point as well. There was a cursed ring that Poidrac found in Fabul, which takes care of all of your anchor issues. I don't believe JudgeJoe found it, so that is Poidrac right now.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point in time, I think Poidrac kind of needs all the help he can get because I'm going to say this, in a straight line race, at least in the first 15 or so minutes here, I think JudgeJoe is actually pulling out a little bit ahead. Now, it's a long race, and there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, but right now, the old ahead is looking a little vulnerable right now to JudgeJoe.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is not how I expected this race to open up. That Asura slowed down Poidrac quite a bit. But you are absolutely correct. Anything could happen. I mean, it could just be a simple check-in. You know, he's about to get the Earth Crystal here. If he goes to check that treasury now, find something really useful that JudgeJoe has been fading for the time being, that could just be the equalizer, and JudgeJoe's advantage will just evaporate.
In the meantime, Joe is actually equipping his party very smartly. He's got the dancing daggers on both Palom and also on his Edward. And oh, that's a blarg.
Now, unfortunately, Joe doesn't seem well. At this back attack spot, we're not going to get a mega nuke immediately. What instead, Wyvern? Oh, we are. Gee, I thought Wyvern doesn't do this in the back attack spot. Okay, never mind. I'm completely wrong. Well done on Joe's spot. Got through that back attack Wyvern quite quickly.
Yeah, it does pause a little bit, so it gives you a little bit more time, so it's not like instant, but it will still absolutely blarg all over your face. So we did get one off, which is fantastic. And notice he passed on Edward to be able to do it with Rosa, because I think you're right. He didn't want as Edward to get any levels that he didn't need to. Meanwhile, Poidrac is over here with the treasury.
Wait, that treasury!
There, that Stardust Rod.
Stardust Rod, a couple, I saw a Life Rod, a Life Staff that's over there, a couple of Murasames. Yeah, lots of, I mean, if we find an edge, that will be absolutely fantastic. But between the Stardust and the Life Rods, and a couple Strength Rings, I think, and the Murasames, yeah, that's a pretty decent. I'm going to go with like an 8 out of 10. I think the only thing that would have made that better would be some cutlery for Cecil, maybe a power shirt or two, but that was a solid treasury.
Yeah, absolutely. White Spear, 2 Murasame. If you find Kane, if you find Edge, you have Berserkers online already. But yeah, for the immediate moment, it's going to be that Stardust Rod that will be the champion. I'm not sure if we'll see that Life Staff get equipped now. It's more of a late game play, I'm sure, once Rosa's done, providing offense with that Samurai Bow. But yeah, we are future-proofed, at least for our White Mage, and our Black Mages are online, either one of them. Probably Rydia, though, with that Sylph.
And here's the question that I always hate asking, because right now we're very mage-heavy in terms of our party. We have a White Mage, a Black Mage, a Summoner who's kind of pulling both duty, and then a bard who's, again, at best a teddy bear. What, like, it feels like we're not set up for the mid game quite as well as we normally are at this point in the race.
No, this is generally a party you don't want to go through the game with. Based on my experience, at least, when you play this particular flag set, it's much more heavily geared toward melees, because with T Wildish on, you're going to find those Murasames, those White Spears, because we have to forage, you're going to find an X-Cal. You're going to want to try to be more melee heavy, most likely, at least in most of my practices. So here we are with a bunch of mages. And I know you have to play with what the seed gives you, but yeah, this is generally not something I would like to try to finish the seed with.
Joe looks to be doing kind of a random monster grind up on Mount Ordeals as well, and it looks like he's trying to get Palom up to Quake or Virus or something at this point in time. Just trying to get him a few more. Well, he's got Virus, so looking like he's trying to get Quake. He just wants answers at this point.
Yeah, this is an interesting location. So if you are going to do an overworld grind, top of Ordeal is not a bad location. That double Redbone and Lilith fight is a rare fight and has the most amount of XP up here. I think 3,000 or 4,000, which isn't too bad. Alternatively, you want to take random fights outside of Troya, but that's kind of out of the way, so we're already here. Try to get that Quake. Alternatively, though, it's been very popular on this particular flag set to take Evelyn Trap Chests, each of which will give like 7,000 to 11,000 XP each, especially if you life switch them. So it'll be interesting to see if he's trying to get Quake primarily to get those life to Quake those chests down and see if he can spike something like an Adamant or something like that.
Well, and Chet pointed out something really interesting to me. Like, we could do Tower of Zot right now, and I think with Quake we could do Tower of Zot pretty easily. Judge Joe, however, is on his way up to do Cave Magnus. And I don't know if you know this thing about Cave Magnus, but the boss at that boss spot in particular has extremely high magic defense. We're talking one of the best in the game at such a low level. We have a party full of mages. This won't go too well for Judge Joe, I don't think.
No, so you are absolutely correct in probably like 99 out of 100 cases. Well, we actually don't have any bosses in the game, but you know what I mean. The magic defense is absurdly high here. There are a few edge cases, so say like if you are fighting the sisters, the Magus sisters, two of them actually don't absorb that or don't have that magic defense. If you fight the Alt Gauntlet here, and heaven forbid, but if you do, none of them have that magic defense. At this point, though, we are going to be depending on that Samurai Bow, Mute Arrow, Rosa to do all of our damage in this location. Luckily, as NG Davis pointed out, the purpose of that grind up on Ordeal was to get Rosa Berserk, so she'll be able to Berserk herself up and get through this particular fight. I understand this play from Joe, and I like it. You have an objective. It is complete Cave Magnes, and this routes quite decently, so do your objectives. Maybe you find a dirty double, maybe you find your underground access here. Maybe you get a few more levels and get that Quake kit online by getting the 9,000 XP that's here. And you then, in turn, can do Tower of Zot a whole lot easier and a whole lot quicker. But it is a bit of a risk because you could just find something that you don't want to find here in this particular location.
It's absolutely a risk, and I applaud Judge Joe for doing it. If he gets through this, it'll be amazing. But in the meantime, let's allow DJ Spoony B to mix it up on the flow.
Man, Judge Joe really has to work hard for these 15 silver points. Or was it 10? I don't remember.
15 silver points. I had a song that I sang with it when I played this as a child. And yeah, this was about the worst case scenario that Joe could have had walking into this fight. Counting on a Zerker Rosa, no, we're gonna do the worst boss that you can Zerk at. He's through, but my goodness.
And with that, Judge Joe is our first racer here to complete an objective 7. So good on him for that, and good on him for sticking through and finding the hook. Oh, we might have a hook now.
Oh my god, that's terrible. That's horrible.
Hey, we could turn in that rat tail now.
He can. But my goodness, that is about as bad a spot for your underground access with an all mage party as you can get.
And speaking of bad, well, yeah, this antlion is no fun. I mean, the Sylph will probably get Poidrac through here at Zot 1. But you know what will make this antlion a whole lot quicker? Knowing Quake, which is what JudgeJoe's Palom knows.
It's true. The level 2 spells are nice, but yeah, Quake is super, super good here.
JudgeJoe now heading over to the treasury, looting. I believe we rated this, well, you rated it 8 out of 10, I believe. I'd agree with that. The crystal ring, also very nice.
Yeah, I thought this was just a fantastic. I'm fairly certain he wishes he had things like the Stardust Rod and everything else. The Lunar Rod, this Life Staff, everything. But he had a couple Power Rods to get him through, so he's doing all right.
Yep, absolutely. And notably, Joe putting that crystal ring on the Rosa in the center slot. That is going to make this antlion a whole lot easier. This Maga Sister slot in vanilla game, antlion sitting here as Zot 1, is a very slow spot. You can usually outspeed it. And with that crystal ring on Rosa, almost certainly will. Unfortunately for Poidrac, that Palom is slow. That antlion is about as fast as that Palom. So antlion is hitting a whole lot more often here and taking up turns that otherwise JudgeJoe's not going to have to deal with.
The question now becomes, how much time did JudgeJoe save while going ahead and doing that particular check in Cave Magnus right then versus how much time Poidrac will save by doing it later? He certainly got levels, and it will help him get through antlion much faster, yes. But net, I think that's going to be a loss of time for Joe Judge just because of the horrible timing. I applaud his moxie for doing that. It was just the worst possible check that you could have.
Yep, I agree. Unfortunately, Joe probably lost a little bit of time. I think Joe's still ahead, of course. Poidrac did have that lost time early from that Asura mishap in the antlion cave. So Joe's still ahead. I think still ahead by a whole check, actually. But yeah, with that hook that he has in hand now, he could be underground maybe 5-7 minutes faster than Poidrac. It'll be interesting to see. We'll find here Kane at the first dwarf spot, and we have a white spear for him. We also noticed that there's the DKC, a pain man, waiting at dwarf 2, which is very good knowledge for both of our runners. They're both going to have it because you can be much more prepared and not be caught off guard by that particular location.
Yep, and we have a Kane and a Fusoya. Yeah, I'm taking both of these. Honestly, if I'm Poidrac right here, if I'm Joe Judges or JudgeJoe as well.
Yep, absolutely. I truly believe this flag set is a Zerker paradise, and Kane is not the best Zerker out there, but he is serviceable. We are going to also Fu, well, pretty much all you generally need. White mage, black mage, in full, all in one. I like to call him a red mage. People say he's a sage. I'm like, what? No, he's casting, black and white magic. He's a red mage by default. Regardless, though, yeah, there are both auto ads for both of our runners tonight.
In a curious twist, he ended up opting to keep the Rydia, I'm presuming for the self-heals at this point in time, instead ditching Palom. That is a controversial opinion to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can get it though, because I mean, he's got the cures, he's got Rosa, So you don't necessarily need a bunch of white mages. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Rydia more than Palom on this particular flag set. Understand that Palom learns, Quake a bit earlier than Rydia, actually a whole lot earlier. But I don't know, I think Rydia just has much more upside. With T Wildish on, you're much more likely to find a Leviathan summon, a Bahamut summon, both of which would be useful here for this alt gauntlet. But don't worry, Fu has it. He came with Quake by default.
So how much does that Fu negate the levels that JudgeJoe just got from Cave Magnus? Because he's leveled up Palom to get Quake, which is fine, and now he's ditching his Palom because, like, hey, I got a Fu who knows Quake, by the way.
Yeah, the XP advantage Joe got from that inadvertent orb grind over in Cave Magnes, completely gone now. That Fu will carry you through whatever remains here on the overworld and likely carry you through that hook route that Joe will be doing probably immediately after this, and Poidrac will have to wait and do. But notably, that Fu is not going to really help you too much on that CPU fight. What will help is that Kane, however.
So they're on the same fight here. JudgeJoe, the only one already complete with Cave Magnus. I mean, this is super interesting at this point in time. Watching them both really go neck and neck. Joe's Kane has already taken a nap. Poidrac's is not, so his Kane is getting some experience.
And I actually think this is a pretty good move for Joe here. So you have that hook route, at least. Joe knows he had the hook. He doesn't have a Magma Key on hand. He can still find it from the Rat Tail turn-in. He can find it here from finishing Tower of Zot. But if he doesn't, that Kane, he can be an anchor, believe it or not. He doesn't have a whole lot of agility starting up. Poidrac probably doesn't care as much, however. That he found that Curse Ring in Fabul. He's going to use it probably on the Rydia, turn Rydia into the anchor if he needs one, and if this hook route is required, it's probably gonna be needed.
All right, so Poidrac, first one through the alt gauntlet. JudgeJoe immediately behind him. Rosa learning exit, so this is going to be a nice little pick-me-up for our starter Rosa.
Yep. In case that Fu doesn't happen to have exit already, we have it now. And that's an Avenger, which is very nice. Paired very nicely with that Kane that we just found. But not
what's this about Kane? Yeah, what's this about Kane sitting down and not doing anything? Nope.
Nope. Sorry, Kane. Your little vacation's over now. You got to stand up.
Mike 34. Yes, welcome. It is an Alvera close race right at this moment. Poidrac is now going to be going up to Cave Magnus, which he opted to dodge initially by going up to the Tower of Zot. I think his party is going to be slightly better, although I really hope he's not relying on Avenger Kane to be his savior, because that would be a mistake. We know that the CPU fight is going to be at this really high magic resist spot. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Poidrac handles this. It's a really tricky boss fight for this location that we know is our access to underground at this point in time.
Unless his Rat Tail here has a Magma Key or something that leads to it. And good on JudgeJoe for remembering, hey, I've got that Rat Tail. Let's go turn it in. Because I often would get a Rat Tail and remember like 30 minutes later, oh wait, I could have turned that in and get the pass, which is nice, but not what we need. That hook route, hard required.
So 2 objectives to none. Raise your hand if you predicted this would be the outcome of the Poidrac JudgeJoe race. And anyone who's raising your hands, you're a liar. No, I'm not going to call you a liar outright. I'm just going to call you a liar subtly, because I certainly didn't expect this, but JudgeJoe is really putting on a show here against Poidrac, the old hat, who's been around for a long, long time. JudgeJoe is running one heck of a race right now. In the meantime, Joe is doing some looting here in Castle Ebland.
Yep, and it's interesting. Normally you'll see Eblin being looted quite a bit earlier than this particular time. That Artie Bow, for example, would have been quite useful early on, but I think we're getting a reprise of Gato, so let's be quiet for a little bit. And we're through that fight. It was significantly faster than Judge Joe's. But in the meantime, Judge Joe did clear out Eblan Castle, found some really nice things, another Avenger Sword, but more importantly, a Bahamut summon for his Rydia. Bahamut makes Rydia go Blarg a whole lot. It just really increases her value. Absolutely. Would have been useful, like 30 minutes ago too, but it will make this hook route a whole lot easier. And another item that I don't think gets enough attention is that Moonveil that Judge Joe found in the first trap chest. If there is something melee heavy here waiting at the Rubicon spot, maybe something like an Ogopogo, that Moonveil could be the difference between victory or defeat on this particular hook route boss.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We don't quite know what's going to be waiting for us in the underground boss, but we're at some pretty decent levels right now. Yeah, we're not going to get that Leviathan. Might get a couple of elixirs, but this boss can be super tricky depending on what it is. But I gotta feel like with the levels that we have right now, it's going to be relatively straightforward. You might pick up whoever this character is if it's a Cecil or another Kane, so you can double Avenger. But otherwise, our party's looking pretty solid.
Let's put you in Judge Joe's shoes right now. Let's say you're walking down this hook route. You find this character. It's a dupe Kane. Do you take him? And if you do, who do you replace?
Who do I replace? Oh, it's an Edge. Oh, it's an Edge. Yes, I do take the Edge. And honestly, I think I get rid of Rydia. I really think I do.
But she has Bahamut. How can you get rid of Rydia? No, actually, that's a pretty solid choice. I think it's either between Rydia and Rosa here. Of course, Bahamut's great, but if this is going to end up being a Berserker seed, then you don't need Rydia. She doesn't have a place too much. But no, we're going to get rid of Rosa instead. A second Berserker, of course, but do you need multiple Berserkers when you have, Perma-Zerk Kane right there? I don't know.
Plus double Murasame Edge. I mean, we've been hanging on to those double Murasames the whole time. We get some black belt and a headband and a crystal ring. Yeah, Edge is gonna be good. I can justify getting rid of Rosa as well. Both are gonna be very, you have Rydia who can cast Bahamut. You have Rosa who can cast Berserk. When I set up my party, I explicitly set up to how I'm going to fight Zeromus, personally. And Rydia just right now is kind of the odd man out when it's looking at what I'm going to do for Zeromus.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to endgame, Rydia is going to have less utility for that Z fight than Rosa will. I guess I could see Judge Joe's perspective on this, though. Get rid of the Rosa now because she doesn't really speed up your mid game, and that's what awaits Judge Joe right after this hook route. Likely having to do tower, likely having to do Dwarf Castle. Being able to cast Bahamut will one-shot a lot of those fights, actually.
True. Absolutely true. We do have to keep in mind there's one fight that is going to be coming down the pipeline that Rydia absolutely is not going to be beneficial for, and that's that Dark Knight Cecil. You're just looking for an MP or HP pool at that point in time. And Judge Joe's Kane is still dead.
Oh, and so the Rydia, which is unfortunate. But it looks like with that Quake going off and a few attacks from Roxas here, or Edge, we should be through this fight.
Oh my goodness. Edge just does so much damage, even out of the box with those Murasames.
And we know who this is. This hook route requires no anchoring. This is free.
This is the Hold A and Welcome to the Underground boss.
And Poidrac hot on Judge Joe's heels, but I don't believe Poidrac did any of the Eblin chests, did he? So Poidrac is down that Bahamut. Appears, however, we'll actually see if Poidrac decides to get rid of the Rydia. I think he may in this situation, just to not having that Bahamut. The second Avenger also could come in handy eventually. But yeah, goodbye Rydia on Poidrac's side. So we have divergence in character choice now.
And that does make sense, because you're right. Judge Joe went and cleared out Castle Eblin. Poidrac did not. So he shaved some time off there. Did not have Bahamut. Does not have the second Avenger, I don't think. I think Kane does have a single Avenger that we picked up as a key item reward, but shaved some time there. So Poidrac is starting to slowly catch up, but I think this underground is going to reveal some more divergence, honestly.
Yep, so, okay, put yourself again in Judge Joe's shoe. You just got underground. You have a tower key. Do you dive tower now, or do you go someplace else?
No, I always do my freebies. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to, at very first, I'm gonna check Fame Arch chest, and if I do not find the pan there, then I will do the tower at that point in time. I want to see what the king of the Town of Monsters is, because I think that can be it. If it's a free boss, I want to do that. I want to get the free chest there. But then I do the tower immediately after, hoping to find the pan so I can make the most efficient checks that I possibly can at that point.
And it looks like that Judge Joe subscribes to the School of Vitasia here, because off to Fame March we go.
I wouldn't recommend following my school of thought because, let's face it, it's been a long time since I've won any races. So, you know, Judge Joe, you do you.
So let's see. We're down here in Fame Arch. We're going to see what this free key item is very shortly, but I wonder who this King of Monsters can be, because you'd like to try to single dip this if possible.
It'd be nice. And that Luca key, oh, that's not exactly what I want to see. Oh, and Sirens. Yeah, we'll pick up a small stack of those while we're here.
Now, one other note, noted by our tracker NG Day this evening, the top of tower, you can actually check on the hook route. You can see who the boss is up there on the way down. And it turns out that it's completely free. The freest of the free. King and Queen Eblin up there. You just wait and, you know, they'll off until eventually. So it's actually an interesting thought to head up the tower shortly after this. It's with that tower key, that's 2 relatively quick key item checks. And I am sure Judge Joe will be, he did spy that, so I'm sure he may be heading up there shortly after this, if he doesn't find the pan, for example.
Joe looks like he's doing some agility manipulation. Dwarfax on Kane in the middle, which Dwarfax does lower your agility. Ooh, a Bahamut at the king spot. This is very doable right now. This is incredibly doable right now.
Absolutely. We are down to 1, count them, 1 Star Veil, I'm afraid, but we do have a food that can cast Wall. That Rosa can't cast Wall if you had kept her around, so advantage Rydia here, because you can also cast Bahamut to speed this up a little bit. But yeah, try as you might with that Dwarfax, you're not going to be able to manipulate the agility that much with a Kane who's already gained that main level, I'm afraid. Still very doable. That wall should not have fallen off yet. This Star Veil probably will not fire in time, though.
Nope, and he used it, and it's burned now, unfortunately.
So Joe's in a little bit of danger right here. That wall actually could fall off during this final countdown here.
Yeah, he's hanging on for dear life. Yep, it fell off. He's got to get it cast now. Okay, he's safe, because I do not believe Bahamut can survive 4 Blards. Yes, NG Dave, you are absolutely right. It's the final countdown!
Actually, this might be the final countdown. Let's hope.
That really hurt my voice. I hope you appreciate me, NG Dave, by the way.
And that spells the end for the King of the Town of Monsters, and that would be objective number 5 complete over there for Judge Joe. Going up 3 objectives to 2 and finding the pink tail. Hey, we got ourselves a free adamant armor waiting on the overworld.
I'll take it. Absolutely. You know what? At this point in time, we got our free check. I still think we check the tower before we do anything else. I'm not a fan of that Mylan fight. I'm not sure if it's the Mylan Z or Mylan and Friends fight, but I don't care. Honestly, I'm like, let's keep moving. Let's keep rolling.
It's always risky to fade a spot because that could be your go mode eventually, but I could see skipping it. I want to say it's the Mylon Z fight. Did we find the Mylon fight earlier? I can't remember, but
I seem to recall that we have, but I might be crossing my races at this point in time. Who knows?
But yeah, the Mylon fight is doable for this party that Judge Joe has, and it looks like Joe is going to take it. So we'll see if it is a required spot or not.
In the meantime, Poidrac straight up the tower. He says, I don't care about freebie checks. This to me indicates that Poidrac feels behind, that he's not doing the freebie checks. He feels like he needs to do something to catch up. So he's making a play here. I like it. In fact, I love it, knowing what Poidrac knows. But I mean, we know more, so we know, the king is kind of a freebie fight, and I kind of wish he would go down there. But putting myself in Poidrac's shoes, you do this, you fade the free check and Fey March if you feel behind, if you feel like you have to make a play to catch up. So I like this, and I respect this play from Poidrac.
Yep, I agree. And it's actually kind of efficient too. You'll probably likely see Joe do this shortly afterwards, simply because, that Mylon Z is hitting pretty hard. But don't worry, Joe has something to deal with it. Regardless, you'll probably see Joe head up the tower shortly afterwards, because completing the tower, which we're going to see is pretty free by the looks of it, will get you the Enterprise, which Joe left over on the Overworld. That will let him go turn in that pink tail relatively quickly without having to switch the Falcon for the Enterprise and take a few more seconds to do that.
You know what makes this fight free right now for Mylon Z? If Judge Joe remembers it.
I think he might be talking about that Moon Veil in his inventory.
Absolutely. Too bad. Like, what I would do is cast Moon Veil, have Kane use the Moon Veil first, and then put the Avenger on, put my controller down, go get a beer, come back. Like, I don't care. It's free.
Yep, sometimes the game is so easy it plays itself, and I believe Joe and Poidrac both have a White Spear they took out of that treasury, so Mylon Z, being undead, will take a bit of extra damage, I believe, from that White Spear, that Holy Spear. So it could, when you Avenger glitch it, you'll maintain that Holy ability on your attack, that Holy modifier, and this fight will actually be over quite quickly, because I believe it only has about mid 20,000 HP.
Oh no. Oh no. We were so busy focusing on Judge Joe. Poidrac found ourselves a Darkness Crystal, by the way.
That top of tower certainly has a bit of value to it. Hopefully Joe doesn't, for Joe's sake, he doesn't fade it too long, but right now advantage Poidrac because that Darkness Crystal required 2 objectives locked behind it. And Rydia showing her stuff, summoning Bahamut against Mylon Z, doing quad 9s, doing at least 40% damage toward Mylon Z. This fight's going a whole lot better this time around.
Got much better this time around, and jumping on Kane does quite a bit. And of course, okay, yeah, that was much easier this time.
But the question that I would like to say is, was it worth it? No, not at all.
Not even remotely. I mean, decent experience, I guess.
Sure, there's that silver lining, I suppose. Well, let's see where Judge Joe goes next. Having fully single dipped the Fey March, well done to him. It's what you love to do, and it's what he did.
Poidrac, meanwhile, coming out of the tower, dodging the Fey March up to this point in time, rewarded with at least the Darkness Crystal and the Adamant, which is one of our 2 items that we do need. So Joe is going to be doing that here directly. It'll be interesting to see what Poidrac ends up deciding to do from this point on.
Yep, Poidrac would best be served by, at least based on what we know, heading on down and doing his objective, the King of the Town of Monsters. Very doable for Poidrac as well, just as it was for Joe. Joe, following his instincts, I suppose, heading up the top tower, will be rewarded for it. So whatever that, oh no, actually we're going to see Dwarf Castle out of Poidrac. Interesting play, and I can see why he would do it. You do have the opportunity for a Cecil eventually, and you're only one key item away from a shiny sword in Excalibur. All you need is that legend sword. You could find both of them here, Cecil and the legend sword, and have a lot more offense.
See, I'm still rolling with the opinion that these are objectives that I think Poidrac does when he feels behind. You do the things that you think your opponent is not going to do, or that they might dodge. Like if you think your opponent absolutely is going to be checking the freebies, you avoid the freebies because you feel behind. You have to do something to catch up. It's the only way to get caught up. So yeah, I think Poidrac right now feels like he's behind, so he's making some gambles. And hello, we have the Elements fight just waiting for us here in the underground. This is a neat little intro to the Elements fight. I like this.
Yep, you can be easily distracted by that fight. You see that little red robe jumping behind the wall. You're like, oh, great, I'm going to be fighting Dark Imps. I can coffin them, I can hourglass them. And then, no, it happens to be Rubicon and friends. No issue here, however, for Poidrac. That nuke taking care of it relatively quickly. And we know that DKC is waiting here at Dwarf 2, but who's going to come rescue the party?
Paladin Cecil. Paladin Cecil versus Dark Knight Cecil. Make it happen.
Not quite.
No. Okay, it's just a Sid.
So, yeah, let's hope for Poidrac's sake that there is something valuable behind this location, because otherwise it's about 40k XP, actually less than 40k XP, I'm afraid, because that Elements has diminished XP.
Not even doing the full cutscene, saying, I'm not wasting my time. Justice what? No, I'm going to nuke you instead.
We ain't got justice. Ain't nobody got time for that.
See, this is where old Vitasia would say something and would get himself in trouble on stream. New Vitasia is going to say, well, isn't that interesting? Look at Leviathan, go. Man, that's an unfortunate spot for a Leviathan. Oh, no.
Oh, well. Anyway, we find ourselves a spoon, which Edge can throw. And we have an Edward waiting in the Tower of Wishes, but I don't think we're going to go get him right now.
Yeah, that spoon. That being said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 key items for Poidrac. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 key items for JudgeJoe, but he's about to get his 9th in that Adamant Rock. Oh my.
Yep, and oh, sorry, where was that Luca key again?
Luca key is going to be here, down here in Feymarch, at the free chest that Poidrac is going to now. If he decides to stop in that Bahamut, it is also that pink tail. So it is entirely possible that Poidrac will be sitting at 10 key items here directly.
What I'm most interested in right now, I think Poidrac's going to fully clear the Feymarch, as he should. I would do the same in his shoes. But will JudgeJoe remember to turn in that pink tail? That adamant armor, which we have on in this tournament, and we haven't had on in a tournament for a long period of time, is so stupidly powerful. Possumorpheus, one of the the sages of this particular flag set, said it's probably the most stupidly overpowered item in any Final Fantasy, and debatably, I think that's probably true. Let's see if JudgeJoe remembers now that he sees it in this item screen. He may not, and he can still get through this Luca cave regardless, but if I was in their shoes, I would beeline that pink tail immediately.
See, and I don't think it's even up for debate. Yes, the adamant armor is ridiculously powerful. You can absolutely put it up there with the most powerful Final Fantasy items. And keep in mind, we know, like, those of us who have been gamers for the Final Fantasy franchise for years know how stupid some of the items can get up in, like, Final Fantasy X when you really grind on your Zodiac weapons or whatever is on up there. Nah, adamant armor is the true end game.
Adamant armor is, I mean, an early adamant armor turns into maybe a 10, 15, 20-minute advantage at the end of the game. If you happen to spike one and your opponent doesn't, it can be huge on this particular flag set.
Absolutely. It's plus 15 to all stats and resistant to all sorts of elements at that point in time. Now, here's the deal. You don't want to unequip it because there is a glitch in the game where unequipping the adamant armor from someone actually makes you like super weak to all elements at that point.
Oh ho, we have Forge available to us, which is the objective.
Forge available and it's required. Oh boy.
Oh boy, but what is waiting for us here? We don't have a good anchor situation, I'm afraid. This is one of the fastest spots in the game. This could be extremely challenging. And it's really annoying, especially if you have an Avenger on that king right now.
I don't think he does, but this is one of those bosses that's annoying if you're banking on Avenger stats, on any sort of Zerg strats. Yeah, it's annoying. It's not difficult. It's just annoying.
So a few things about Demist here. Demist is a Holy Dragon. Holy Dragons take less damage from Holy equipment, like White Spear, so hopefully Kayn doesn't have that equipment. But JudgeJoe will have an easier time with this fight than Poidrac will. Pretty much Nuke is going to be a significant source of damage for both of our runners this evening against this boss, but that Bahamut that JudgeJoe had and Poidrac does not is going to be a significant decider and make this fight a whole lot faster if we can get it off in time.
No. Demas says, no, I'm not going to let you cast the King of all summons against me. And just decides to let Rydia take a nap. That is particularly rude if you know the lore of the original Final Fantasy IV.
Let's just say that, Rydia had upset her mother.
I mean, my mom beat me when I was a kid too, but man.
Yeah, but she didn't, hit me for 600 damage.
I don't know, that flip-flop, she was deadly accurate with that flip-flop thrown across the house. Let's be real.
Well, luckily that Demist is taken care of, and good on JudgeJoe for getting through it in a relatively decent amount of time, because it sure would have been more difficult if you didn't have some kind of magic damage in this particular situation. And Plumeria Knight in chat pointed out a very interesting note. Yeah, so we had two Avengers. JudgeJoe found a second one that Poidrac didn't in Castle Evelyn. Decided to just toss it at the Demist. Probably fine. It's painful to see. Avenger is one of the best weapons in the game, but I suppose we won't happen to need a second one this particular flag set.
No, I can't see us needing a second one at all. I think our parties are set at this point in time. We're in the mid-30s. We're committed at this point in time. More than that, we're only one key item away from go mode. We are a Baron key away. We have the Coco Forge that we're going to see JudgeJoe do almost immediately. He's got the Darkness Crystal to complete both Cave Bahamut and the Giant of Babel. We are a Baron key away from go mode at this point, and we're at an hour 6 in this particular race. This is very fast for this particular flag set.
Yep, this has been extremely Jetty seed so far, and it could be even jettier if Sheila 1 here, which JudgeJoe is setting up, happens to have that Baron key that we need. Additionally, if we have a dirty double up on the moon, if Cave Bahamut, which JudgeJoe will probably beeline, doing before the Giant, happens to have that Baron key, we could see a sub 130 seed from both of our runners.
And that is you know, as a racer, you always like to see yourself get sub 130. The problem is when it's so straightforward that your opponent also gets sub 130, and then it gets stressful.
Yep. In that case, it comes down to execution, and both of our racers executing very well. They both had a couple hiccups. A small hiccup on Mylon Z for JudgeJoe, a small hiccup on that early Asura for Poidrac, but they're both demonstrating why they are tournament tier racers, and well done for both of them getting this far in the seed.
Here's the issue as it comes in. Poidrac is now doing the sealed cave, so he's going to pick up the legend sword as well. It's looking like Poidrac has run a fantastic race. He's been a little bit behind, but he's always kind of been nipping at JudgeJoe's heels. But also keep in mind that he did that dwarf castle check, and right now JudgeJoe has no reason to do it. If he wants to completely dodge it at this point, he can. That's been just nothing but a time sink at this point in time. It's a key item, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Poidrac does have 10 key items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But so does JudgeJoe. So there's no advantage that Poidrac has gotten from doing Dwarf Castle at this point in time. And unfortunately, it might cost him the race if things continue to play out as they are right now.
Yep, it's a very interesting situation. Actually, it might be pretty even between our two racers. Once, because it looks like JudgeJoe is heading into Dwarf Castle, will likely do the checks here. Probably will take about as much time as Poidrac will take down here in Sealed Cave. And to answer Dia in chat, absolutely. You throw the kitchen sink. You don't have a Iridia de Bahamut, this demyth. Let's get through this fight as quickly as possible. You don't need that spoon for anything else. But no, just like that, it seemed relatively even between our two racers. I think, other than Joe having done the Evelyn trap chest, we're probably both going to be seeing both of these racers head over to the overworld at roughly the same amount of time.
And given that JudgeJoe did enter the underworld a little bit ahead of Poidrac at this point in time, that is saying something. Poidrac has kind of been chipping away at things up, through this point. So to see them both go up into the overworld at about the same time, that'll be incredible.
Yep, and hats off to Poidrac, one for chipping away at the lead and coming back, but also Joe maintaining the lead thus far against a much more experienced racer. I think Joe still has a slight lead right now. He'll be out of this Dwarf Castle, I suppose, about the same time that Poidrac will be out of Sealed Cave, but Poidrac still needs to forge, and that cutscene takes a little bit of time. So it may just be like a 30-second lead right now for JudgeJoe, and it'll come down to execution on the moon and maybe just route team choices.
And that's what it always comes down to, doesn't it? The end game routing choices. It'll be really interesting to see how this ends up playing out. Right now, neither runner or JudgeJoe has gone and checked Self Cave to at least start the Sheila checks. I don't believe Poidrac has.
That's true. That is one more advantage that Joe has. So, of course, running down that Self Cave takes a little bit of time too. So that extends Joe's lead a little bit. Looks like Forge will be done at about the same amount of time as Dwarf Castle. That's really the only difference between our two racers right now. And we could see Poidrac fade it. He may just forget about Sheila 1 entirely. I mean, I've certainly never done that.
Get it? Yeah, none of us have ever done that, ever, right? So the question becomes, you are one key item away. You are a barren key away from go mode. Do you take the time to go ahead and check that freebie? Or do you like, no, the rule is check your objectives. I can go clear Cave Bahamut. That's an objective. And you just YOLO it right up to the moon. What do you do here in this position?
I mean, I certainly hope Joe does not forget to turn in Sheila 1. It looks like Poidrac has just up and decided to forget Sheila 1 existed or save it for later, maybe fight a pan. I would have to agree. I'd have to agree with Joe here. Sheila 1's not too long of a check. I would probably check it because if it is your Baron key and you fade it, that probably adds another 30 minutes onto your seed because you're going to be searching the entirety of the moon looking for something that just simply isn't up there.
I mean, I tend to agree, but sometimes we got to be like we're sports commentators here. We got to play up a supposedly controversial statement. So, no, I think we're all in agreement. Yes, make the check.
Yep, but I mean, this is still a gamble for Poidrac by fading this particular check if Sheila has no value, and we're about to find out in about 10 seconds or so. But if there is no value, Poidrac has taken the lead. He will be on the moon first. And Poidrac has taken the lead.
My gosh, package. Now that's not to say that Poidrac is completely in the lead. I mean, he is in the straight line lead, absolutely. But this is a much closer race than we've anticipated up to this point in time.
Oh, absolutely. Still anybody's race to win. We're looking at a difference of maybe like 30 seconds between these two races at this particular point of the race, which is not just not insurmountable, but it's pretty much negligible. For all intents and purposes, these two racers are neck and neck.
Looks like Joe got a little bit lost on the overworld map over the ocean. And yeah, Poidrac's making a beeline to that Cave Bahamut. It's an objective. He's going to take a quick rest before he does it. I don't blame him.
There can definitely be some very nasty things in Cave Bahamut. I think it's one of the, at least in my experience, it's one of the nastier locations on the moon. Relatively low magic, but extremely high speed, extremely high offensive power. I think the highest physical attack of any boss spot in the game. So if you find something punchy here, we've already seen that line, but if you find something like a Knazo, for example, very fast, we'll get those waves out super quick. And if you can't get those, water walls off quick enough, can easily wipe your party, even with an adamant armor, which both of our runners currently have.
Is Knazo the worst case scenario here for Poidrac?
I believe yes, and that is a punchy boss. Not punchy.
It's a very punchy boss, yeah.
Not punchy enough to get through our adamant armor in the back row, and I think that's on Arcane right now. But Poidrac doesn't want to take any risk taking a few sirens up here for double gold dragons to just shore up his levels a little more.
Meanwhile, Joe is actually going to be checking the character slot first. He's like, look, I got to check this anyway. On the off chance that it's a Cecil, I want it.
So another gamble, and it does not pay off, I'm afraid.
Wrong, old man.
I mean, we already have Fu. Why do we want Diet Fu?
Diet Fu has his uses in the first 15 minutes, so that's about it.
True. And he does have some advantages that Fu doesn't have in the end game. Specifically, he's a great anchor, especially if you pick him up late, or if at least you keep him down on the ground most of the game. But it looks like Joe is just saying, I don't need an anchor. I got an adamant armor. I have tons of attack power from my 2 melees, from my blarging murder child. So, anchor schmanker.
Ooh, and that karate fighter does some damage. 1,500 a swing. Hit Fu quite hard.
Yep, but we do have an did we remember to equip the adamant armor? Is it really doing that much damage through the adamant armor? That is impressive.
I think he put it on his cane because his cane is going ham.
But either way, we have Blinks up. This fight is pretty much in the bag for Poidrac, and we will see if this happens to be the Baron key or not. Best case scenario for Poidrac if it is, and best case scenario for JudgeJoe if the Baron key is hidden someplace else.
All right, so Poidrac really, I mean, he set himself up solid for this fight. So I think he's set through here, even with a dead Fu.
Yep, Fu doesn't need levels. He doesn't really gain any stats as he levels, just a very marginal amount of HP. So it's perfectly fine to leave him on the ground for the time being. And in fact, we may see Fu get cursed on Poidrac's side. He did obtain that curse ring early on. That will be his anchor potentially come endgame.
It makes total sense. In the meantime, Poidrac does get through this fight, and it is our key item. We are in go mode, everyone.
They're the dirty double, and that seems to be just an adage on this particular flag set. Do your objectives. Do your objectives, because you will find a lot of these dirty doubles, just like we found tonight.
The rest of the moon is haunted. Theoretically, you could dodge Dwarf Castle, but it does look like that by and large, both runners have done it, so there's no real time loss there. We've completed Cape Bahamut. We have to do the Giant and then the Baron Castle Basement Throne. And that's it. We're done. We have the pass. We can go to Z.
Yep, Poidrac would never even have to enter the Lunar Subterrane and check who's on that altar, which, the Tella, we didn't want him anyway. But good move on Poidrac's side, doing his objective first in this situation, and he has, I want to say, about a good minute and a half lead right now, but again, still not insurmountable. JudgeJoe could pull ahead or, catch up just based on whether Poidrac happens to have any issues up here on the Giant.
And at this point, it's very evident that JudgeJoe put his adamant armor on his Murasame edge at this point, because he's taking no damage at this point in time. So it's just letting this play out. Yeah, he'll get through it. He won't get through it quite as fast as Poidrac did. Really, the story of this race has been Poidrac getting a little bit behind in the early part of the game, took a long fight in the Antlion Cave for a really poorly placed Asura, all things said, that was there. So he's always been about 3 to 4 minutes behind JudgeJoe throughout most of this race, but slowly he's been chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And at this point in time, he's made it out, and he's probably about 3-4 minutes ahead of him at this point in time.
And I think that's the experience Poidrac is leveraging here. He's a bit more experienced, actually a lot more experienced than JudgeJoe at playing this game, having been around for such a long time. His ability to do micro execution throughout the remainder of the seed or throughout the previous part of the seed has allowed him to chip away that lead, whereas Joe has maybe made some less than optimal routing decisions compared to Poidrac, but it's still anyone's game. I have to keep on saying here, but Odin is not going to be an issue for either one of our racers tonight. A very low physical attack at this location, and his Antisuken will hit for pretty much nothing.
Let's not forget that his edge just threw a Thunderclaw on, so his Murasame Thunderclaw, which will do quad damage. Watch how much damage this edge. Yeah, 6,200. He's doing quite a bit.
He's doing a great amount, but I don't think he'll do the whole 65,000 at this particular spot prior to Antisuken. He might. But even if he doesn't, that Antisuken's gonna hit for like 4K.
I mean, 4K is still a lot here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant 400. 4K is sealed cave, and that hurts.
Yeah, and he gets through. That was a massive amount of damage that Poidrac just pushed out. Just absolutely amazing without even seeing his Densetsuken. So he's gaining levels. Really what's happening here is he's going to be able to get enough levels on his Edge and his Rosa to be able to survive an unnerfed Big Bang, which I generally put at over 2,000 health or so. Between this boss and the next boss, then he'll be fine. And he'll go in and he'll be set at this point in time moving forward. So you won't even have to grind at this point.
Indeed, that's one of the great things about this particular flag set. When you have Clear Giant as one of your objectives, your grind is secured. You're going to be, normally you get about 300,000 XP up here. With 10 key items or more, which you almost certainly have before you come up here, you'll have 600,000 XP as a result, or 500,000 total. Unfortunately, though, not from finding Calbrina here at the second location. I'm sure Poidrac is happy to find it because it's a relatively easy, relatively quick boss, but you get diminished XP from fighting this particular fight.
And I don't think he's terribly worried about experience at this point, if you want me to be 100% honest.
And unfortunately for JudgeJoe, we're seeing a little bit of difference between our two runners. Joe is having a much harder time with this fight because he doesn't have that cursed ring. We don't have RA1 on our Berserker, so we're getting fewer attacks off. So even with that Thunderclaw available to him, he's not going to be able to drop that Odin prior to him getting his Antetsukas out, and he won't be through this fight nearly as quickly.
Yep, this is where the experience of Poidrac is really letting him move forward. Oh, there's our Cecil. Now you show up. I'm sorry, Cecil. It's too late for you. You've had your chance.
There's a world where you take Cecil here. Well, but it isn't this world. Bye, Cecil.
I mean, if you want an agility anchor at level 1, maybe.
That's actually a very good point. That Cecil could be taken by JudgeJoe, put in the middle. You don't need Rydia. Turn him into your anchor, make Z quite a bit easier. But Poidrac has no need for that Cecil. Goodbye. We are off to Baron? Oh, right. Of course. We have to do the Baron Castellation throw. I'm getting ahead of myself. We still have a little bit more to this race. And let me think, or let me ask you, is there anything you think that could be on this Baron basement throne that could trip up Poidrac?
Good. I don't think so. Like, everything that could possibly trip him up, I think we've either already encountered or he's well equipped to handle at this point.
Yeah, I agree. With that Wyvern out of the way, there's really not a whole lot left that can challenge an adamant armor wearing melee.
I mean, we do have a Golbez fight to start with, though.
That is true, and if the Golbez cannot kill, at least with Shadow, the adamant armor wearer, but that initial virus could be quite painful. Oh, there's that Golbez fight. Never mind. I forgot about Golbez being here.
Yeah, we gotta survive this. And it's like, okay, we have an adamant armor cane, so he's just gonna jump and let him do his thing, so that when he lands with a white spear, he can one-shot him.
JudgeJoe, meanwhile, is through the Odin fight. We'll be heading on up to take on the doll shortly after. Doesn't seem to have gotten the XP that he would have wanted on his entire party, so he's going to be lower level than Poidrac going into this Baron Castle.
All right, Fu takes a nap, and that's it. Shadow misses everything else, and Kane lands and immediately he asks why. Golbez did not even ask if Shadow was already full. That's impressive.
Indeed, that is expert timing. Well done on Poidrac's side, but Golbez, why do you always ask why? Why don't you ask, like, how are you doing, not why? Or there's so many other questions to ask. You never get the answer you want.
He's really into philosophy. He spent, a semester abroad, so he thinks he's deep and has to ask why constantly. And really, he's just the annoying friend that no one wants to invite to parties anymore because he brings his smelly lizard with him every time and is always asking why. And really, it's just an annoying question at this point. Like, grow up, please.
Yeah, Golbez, come on. Stop being so full of yourself. We have 3 Maga Sisters down here on the Odin throne. Certainly not a challenge to anyone here, especially, Adamant Armor, like we said earlier, one of the most powerful, if not the most overpowered item in the entire Final Fantasy series, and it trivializes this fight, if our levels didn't already.
Yeah, I think we're well geared enough at this point in time. We'll just be really going through this fight very, very quickly. And yeah, Maga Sisters already done. And there's the final fight. We just get an apple for our troubles. JudgeJoe, meanwhile, looks like he's going to take some eggs. He's not happy with his levels right now. Not ready to be able to really go through everything as he needs to. Did pick up that Cecil, by the way. Wanted his Cecil to level up.
Finding an awkward situation here, though. Unable to kill the egg with his 2 overpowered characters. I'm thinking because he may have taken an adamant armor off either the Cane or the Edge, so they don't have that additional strength, and maybe stuck it on the Cecil. He's going to have a lot of damage for the Zeromus fight, having 3 Berserkers rather than just 1. And he may be a little disappointed that he threw that second Avenger earlier on. But at some point, you just have enough damage to get through Zeromus. JudgeJoe probably did. And unfortunately, this may not pay off for him in the long run.
Yeah, it looks like he's switching over, trying to get the Excalibur equipped, which we did pick up, which is super nice. And I do think you're right. He put the adamant armor that was on Edge onto his Cecil. So his Edge is actually going to be super weak for the rest of this fight. This entire race, in fact.
And 2 of our community runners, who are very, very good, both Dia and PK and Chad, pointing out that, no, actually, in fact, Edge had a Thunderclaw on, and these dragons here are thunder elements, so he was doing, I believe, quarter damage to the dragons, which is why he couldn't actually one-shot them. But that has been corrected, and we are seeing a swag bow from Poidrac's side heading on up to Troya to turn that path and go kill Zeromus.
The Swagabo coming into play, saying, yes, we're going to Swagabo up here. That's a man of the people right there, Poidrac. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Swiggity Swooty, Poidrac's coming for that booty. So there's a question we'd like to ask at this particular time, and Batasia, if you'd like to do the honors.
Okay, I would be happy to. Let me hang on. I need to clear my throat. I've been coughing all night, so I gotta warm up a little bit. Whose butt are we gonna kick tonight?
Well done, and is it cute? And all those auxiliary questions we have. But yeah, Zeromus does not move. I wish he would. It would be fantastic if Zeromus just popped up in Antlion Cave and was randomly generated, somewhere else in the world. But nope, he's here. However, Zeromus, we got to randomize him somehow. So our wonderful Scala Kitty, our art director, has created 700 million sprites that can be assigned to Zeromus on any one of our random ICs, or it might be a little less than 700 million. But you throw the crystal, Zeromus puts on his cosplay, and we see whose butt going to be kicked tonight. And Poidrac, I don't think he's going to have too much trouble with this particular fight.
Not with his levels, not with this particular setup. I think he's well set up to do exactly what he needs to do at this point in time. Yeah, he's got Fu rocking the crystals, so he'll be set, and his true colors emerge. Metalmus.
I would say it's cute, at least. I don't know if it has a butt.
Yeah, I don't think it has a butt either. Like, there's no butt there, unfortunately.
So I know it's from Dragon Warrior, but what's the significance behind this particular enemy? Is it one of those slime that's just like really difficult to kill, or does they give a bunch of bonus XP if you happen to kill it?
I think, and help me out, chat, because I'm not a huge Dragon Warrior aficionado, but I think this particular one will do like a super powerful attack to everyone and then immediately run away, making it like it's great for the XP grind if you can kill it, but
well, what a jerk. Luckily, Metalmus here is not going to be running away. So first Big Bang is off. I believe we got a nerf off, right? And we did. So you have your Zerkers go in, you have your Rosa Cure in. This is pretty much, this is elementary at this point, although Kane Edge combined, not doing too much damage, about 5k total. So we will see a black hole. We will see potentially a need to nerf a second or even third Big Bang, unless we happen to get some magical assistance damage from Fu or Rosa here.
Does look like we're planning on bouncing at least some whites and nukes off, so true hybrid strats at this point in time, letting our melee fly with Zerk strats, and then using magic. Interesting that JudgeJoe is still opening treasure chests at this point in time. I think at this point in the race, anything after an hour, like, if I don't have it, I don't have it. I'm going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, been showing a little bit of Luke Goblin tendencies right now. Can't blame him too much. I would try to advise against it, but if you do spike something like, say, a Curse Ring, which you didn't find in Fabul like Poidrac did, that could make your Z fight a whole lot easier.
It's true. It's true. And I, more than anyone else in this community, love the sound of a treasure chest opening.
Now, you may love the sound of a treasure chest opening, but have you ever tried looting the treasury while poisoned?
Why would you submit your chat to that? Like, ever?
I'm just saying, it's a thing of beauty. And I should probably make it my phone's ringtone. But enough of that. Metalmus still going down here. Hybrid strats coming out. Nuke, white, nonstop. I think this fight will be over momentarily. And Poidrac is showing that he had a very strong command of Zeromus strats.
Absolutely. Just letting the Zerkers do their thing and managing only two characters between Rosa and Fu. Fu is out of magic, so just gonna be chilling out for a little bit. No elixirs, which is fine.
He is throwing the Silk Web here, and he did it at the right time, so this upcoming Big Bang will be nerfed if the white doesn't kill, but it does. And GG to Poidrac, our winner in this race in the Catclaw group, going up 1-0 overall with a race spot time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 28 seconds. And with that ding in my ear, we're joined by Poidrac, our winner. Congratulations on a well-run race.
I felt up today, honestly. There was a lot of mistakes I saw. Probably because I'm so tired and ill. Yeah, I'm glad I got through that with the victory. I did feel awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Poidrac, having seen you run for so long, it felt like when you first got into the underground, you seemed to run as if you felt like you were behind. Like you dodged the early Fey March, you went right up the tower. You did Dwarf Castle, which ended up being nothing and not necessarily required. It felt like you were making checks that typically only runners who feel like they're behind are making. Did you feel behind when you were first going to the underground?
Yeah, no, well, I felt behind way before that, to be honest. As I said, I felt off my game pretty much from the start. My moving around wasn't as crisp as I usually have it. I was making a few tactical errors, like in that through a fight in Antlion. That was a mess. So yeah, honestly, it was from the very get-go that I just felt I need to make a few not different plays to what I do, because broadcast was usually one of my earlier underground techs, and well, King Queen Evelyn at the top of the tower is free, so it's not out of the ordinary. It's really my mindset was I felt behind from the very get-go.
Well, I can understand that. Up in Antlion Cave, taking a little bit of time with Asura, allowing her to cure 4, unfortunately, it could tilt you a little bit, but you did a fantastic job of coming back and correcting your mindset and getting the win. What were you telling yourself as you were going through that hook route, for example? Did you feel behind at that particular location?
Yeah, but hook at that point, I had everything I needed. I had Kane, I had Fu, I had Edge. Kane deciding to take a dive too many times before that point, but Edge, Fu, Kane, Rosa, you're happy with that team going down the hook route, no matter what you really have down there. Baigen in the first slot, yeah, dangerous, but nothing that the team couldn't handle. And Water Hag, pretty simple, seeing as we'd already seen the Gauntlet.
Talk to me about even before that, where our access to get underground was a hook that was locked behind Cave Magnus with a mostly mage party, and you're rocking, and then it was CPU fight at that point in time. It felt like that could go either way. Like you could either power your way through that or kind of cheese your way through that, or spend a whole lot of time through there. What was your thoughts on that being kind of a bottleneck point?
To be honest, my feelings on that particular fight actually go back to the one just before that, and that's the one again at the top of Zot, and it's to the characters there. I took out Palom, but kept Rydia, and Rydia, sure, she's magical based, and that's not really a great spot for magic, but she did have that dragon whip still, so she was able to do a lot more damage than Palom would, and that decision made me think, oh, this isn't as bad as it could be. I've not got someone who's sort of dead weight in the fight. Right, I've got Kane who can jump here. I've got Rydia who can hit things. I've got Rosa who can do a little bit of damage, and Fu, well, he can be my healer for this. So it actually worked out quite well in terms of the team. So yeah, it's a bottleneck place, especially with mages. If you don't have the setup, but I did have the setup and it was fine and got through it quite well.
Talk to me a little bit, because that darkness crystal was available, relatively early. I mean, we had the tower key from the overworld checks pretty early, and then you got that early darkness crystal. Were you tempted at some point to immediately just go up and be like, I feel behind, I got to make a play, go up, because you got that darkness crystal so early? Or was the plan the entire time, I'm down on the earth, I'm going to do everything I can here first before I go up?
That's actually that actually was a difficult decision for me. Yes, that's how that darkness crystal was free. I could have went up, but I still had things on. I was underground at that point, and usually if I'm underground, I try to clear as much of it as possible. So Dwarf Castle, into the Fey Marsh, which was pretty benign today. A Bahamut being our objective, and Mylon Z being the other one, and then picking up that Luca key and just rounded that out to do the entire lot, except for the pan or Sheila checks. I did feel a bit off leaving Sheila 1 on the table to go to the moon after that, but I was underground. Everything was pretty simple to go through. If Feymarsh had been harder, yes, I would have went to the moon first, but since it wasn't, I didn't need to.
Don't mind me asking, Poidrac. So you looted that watery path very early, and you didn't have an exit. Were you disappointed with the equipment you found in that location? Were you tempted to maybe head to Castle Eblin and do some auxiliary looting there?
No. My play at the moment is that watery path is actually my initial loot, and it will usually get me through no matter what. Even if I don't get a whole lot, I usually get enough for what I'm wanting, and it's the play is usually to go over to Edward first to go and get his item, because that could open up a world of possibilities. But I tend to belay that a little bit to go in the opposite direction around the world. I would watery pass into the key item checks and then go to Edward. Yes, I may be losing out a little bit of time if, say, a character check item comes along and Foo's there, or Cecil's there, but I'm not losing out too much time, because you still need a lot to get those online. Heck, if it's an adamant armor, yeah, I'll lose out a whole lot more, but I like the way I've got it rooted in to go around the world basically, and then come back to the more difficult spots, being Ordeals and the Barren Inn, once I've done everything up on the north side of the continent. So that's my typical routing at this moment in time. It may change later. I haven't been known to change it mid-tournament. I may go down to Eblin before anywhere else later on. Who knows?
Well, it clearly worked out for you tonight. So clearly, it's a very viable strategy. So you move up to 1-0 in the Catclaw group. Who are you up against next? You have your next race scheduled.
I do. Can I remember who it is? Let me just get my notes.
No disrespect whatsoever here. Don't even remember your next opponent.
Well, I said quite a while back that this group I've got is tough. I'm just going to bring my A game. I'm just going to bring it and see. They'll have to deal with me. My next game is on Friday against Kedril at 8 p.m.
Not a lot of rest for the weary. Less than 48 hours before your next round. But being the master of bracketology for this particular tournament, I'm pretty sure you're aware that you are the one picked to win your particular group. I think 32 of the entrants picked you, and it looks like you rewarded their pick tonight.
Strange how I know that that's correct. I will. I'm just going to play my game, bring it as best as I can. If those predictions are right and that I do win the group, I've got 1 point for myself as well. But I hope I've done everyone proud.
Well, with that, Poidrac, do you have any final thoughts, or Vitasia, any final questions?
No, just GG's, Poidrac. Always a pleasure getting to watch you race, and fantastic run so far.
My only thoughts right now are good night, everyone. I'm going to bed.
Rest
Have a good
well
evening.
earned. Congratulations again.
Meanwhile, Judge Joe has joined us in the channel. GG's, Judge. How we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Hope you enjoyed the extra long music check.
Yeah, we felt that was a great call at that point in time. We felt it was kind of a bold check at that point in time, and felt you could probably get through it, and it ended up being probably the worst single boss that you could possibly find there based on your setup.
Yeah. I've got an archer, Rosa. She may only have one arrow, but I managed to grind Berserk, so I'm all set. And why is it CPU? Why is it something that requires specific targeting / will randomly kill 2 of my party members every so often?
Bad luck, unfortunately. 9 times out of 10, that gamble you made worked out for you, and you were well prepared for it, but you still got through a very difficult fight nonetheless.
Yeah. I felt pretty good about my time getting through all the stuff before it. After that, I felt a little bit behind into the alt gauntlet and everything there. But
Well, I hope you go back and view this race in its entirety, because the reality of the situation is we felt like you were ahead for, I think, 3/4 of this race. Poidrac had kind of a rough Asura fight early on in Antlion Cave, and you were just constantly, 3 to 4 minutes ahead of him for most of it. And then he kind of chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And then going up to the moon, you were very, very close. You checked the character spot. He didn't. He went right to Cape Muhammad. And that was really kind of the turning point at that point. He didn't really let up from there.
yeah, I ended up spending some time finishing up my earth checks before doing the objective, because I wanted to, when I went to the moon, commit to the moon, and then it turned out to just be the one moon thing that you were gonna do. One error I'm annoyed at is I went and grabbed the Cecil, grind up the Cecil, give him X-Cal, and then leave an Avenger on for the Z fight.
Oh, at least the X-Cal ended up being a pretty good dart.
It's a good dart, but that's like 3k a swing missing from Cecil.
Still, though, I have to agree with Vitasia. We both agree that for the vast majority of the seed, you seem to have the edge, especially going underground. You actually did Eblin as well. Poidrac did not, so you had the gear advantage from that. A Moon Veil, a second Avenger that would have been useful if you hadn't thrown it, I'm sure. Were you a little upset when that second Cecil walked out and you're like, crap, I could have used the second Avenger right about now?
So my thought when I threw it was, Mostly, I think I was thinking about replacing Kane with Cecil for a period of time until how things worked out. And the second Avenger was not the greatest gift I was hoping for with there. The big thing I was hoping for was probably adamant armor to help Kane or Edge, or if there was a Cecil on the hook route, look a weapon for him, because didn't have anything particularly. The Bahamut was great though. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I think that ended up helping you quite a bit throughout the race. That ended up being a bit of a difference maker. Poidrac did not loot Eblin Castle, so he did not have access to that Bahamut. So he ended up opting to ditch Rydia in favor of that Rosa at that point, or ditched Rydia instead of Rosa. So that was the difference in your parties through the entire time. And Rydia's Bahamut did a lot of heavy lifting for you and kept you rolling kind of in front of him through most of it.
Yeah. The big thing is I kind of wish I changed for a bit of the second half and latter half is having had a more effective anchor, because for the end part, due to not having an anchor, Rydia kept on getting killed, and it was just all in all a lot slower because of agility being wonky, is what it felt like for my later part of the run.
And that's something you'll come to understand as you get a little more experience playing the importance of anchors and agility. You're a pink puff, I believe, right, Joe?
Yep. This is my first tournament, and I did as much as I could of the pink puff races. Started Free Enterprise right around the end of the last tournament, ZZ4.
So with that in mind, you performed very admirably tonight. Poidrac, an old hand, a very well-experienced runner here in the community. You led him for a long period of time. You finished within about 6-7 minutes of him, which is a very outstanding performance. So well done. And with a little more experience, I'm sure that you'll be winning these tournament races en masse before too long.
Thank you.
So same question I have for Poidrac. Do you have your next race scheduled? And if so, when and who?
Yes, I do, in fact, have my next race. This weekend I'm pretty busy and stuff, so my next race is going to be... should be Tuesday. Against Lord Bob Bree.
Another well-experienced runner, so good luck on that one.
Oh, thanks for the luck.
Vitasia, any final questions or?
No, best of luck. Really looking forward to seeing how the rest of this tournament plays out for you, Judge. And good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
With that, I believe if everyone sticks around here, we're actually going to be going over and rating Free Enterprise 2. This is a Crystal Ring race going on between Tybalt and Silverfire going on. Remember, do not spoil the results of this race. Just make sure we're promoting and being real happy about everyone. In the meantime, I do want to give shout outs behind the scenes. Neobari for the restream and Enjidave for tracking. Also, another shout out to my co-commentator, Rybon. It's always a pleasure working with you, man.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine, Vitasia. I really appreciate you keeping me in line tonight. And I think with that, we're done for tonight. But y'all have a good night. Plenty more Free Enterprise to watch. And we'll see you next time.